The Widow's Map. Chapter 1. The Map. The widow opened the door before Helena knocked. "Helena Monroe?" she asked, voice flat, eyes dry. Helena nodded. "Maggie Holt." She looked like someone carved out of quiet. Hair pinned back too neatly for grief. Cardigan buttoned up even in the August heat. No tremor in her hands, no puffy eyes. Just that bone-deep fatigue you see in people who've stopped sleeping but haven't admitted it yet. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. The hallway smelled faintly of lemon oil and old paper. The living room had the kind of stillness that clung to funeral houses. Curtains drawn, framed photos of the dead man on every wall, the coffee table crowded with sympathy cards no one wanted to open. Maggie didn't sit. She hovered. "He died 3 weeks ago," she said, not looking at Helena. "Heart attack, in his sleep." Helena waited. People talk differently to strangers. Give them enough space, they'll confess things they didn't plan to. "I found this 2 days after the funeral." She pulled a folded sheet of paper from her cardigan pocket and set it on the table between us. Like sliding over an ace in a poker game she wasn't sure she should play. It was a map, hand-drawn in pencil, edges frayed. Back roads, fence lines, landmarks. Helena half recognized from the county's north end. 5 X's marked remote spots. A quarry, an abandoned silo, a bend in the river where teenagers used to sneak beer. At the bottom, in faint block letters, M.H. "Your husband's initials," Helena said. She nodded. "I don't know why he had it. He never hunted, never hiked. He hated dirt." Her mouth tightened, the first sign of emotion. But he kept it hidden, tucked behind the drawer in his workshop. I wouldn't have found it if the drawer hadn't jammed. "Why call me?" Helena asked. "I don't trust the police." She hesitated, glancing at the photos on the wall. Thomas wasn't perfect, but he wasn't a criminal. I need someone who'll tell me the truth, not... Her hand fluttered. What looks good in a report? Helena studied her. The grief was real, but layered with something else. Guilt, maybe, or fear of what the truth would cost her. "Do you have any idea what the marks mean?" Helena asked. She shook her head too quickly. "No. I thought maybe old property lines, or..." She trailed off, catching herself. "I just want to know why he kept it. Does anyone else know you found this?" "No one, not yet." "Good." The fewer people who knew, the easier it was to tell when someone was lying. Helena folded the map and slipped it into her bag. "I'll start tomorrow." Maggie hesitated, fingers gripping the back of a chair like it might anchor her. "If it's bad," she said softly, "I don't want to hear it from the sheriff. I want to hear it from you." Outside, the air smelled of cut hay and rain coming in from the west. Helena paused on the porch, glancing back at the house, the drawn curtains, the stillness. Something about Maggie's voice stuck with her. Thomas wasn't perfect. People don't say that about a dead man unless they've rehearsed it in their heads first. In her bag, the map felt heavier than paper. 5 marks, 5 questions, maybe 5 graves. Chapter 2. The River Bend. The first mark on the map lay 20 miles north, past soybean fields and sagging barns. The kind of place where fences outlasted the families who built them. Helena left at dawn, the map spread on the passenger seat, coffee cooling in the cup holder. A thin mist clung to the road, softening everything into shades of grey. Out here, cell service cut in and out. Voices carried further. Secrets stayed buried longer. The river bend was easy to find. A gravel pull-off, half swallowed by weeds. An old wooden sign barely readable. Fisherman's Access. She parked, stepped out into air thick with damp earth and algae. The path down to the water twisted between sycamores, roots knuckling up through the soil. Halfway down, she found the first sign of recent life. Cigarette butts, crushed into the mud. New enough to still smell faintly of smoke when she bent close. At the bend, the river widened, slow and brown. Fishermen had been here once. The rotting remains of a dock jutted into the current, boards warped and splintered. But no footprints, no fresh tire tracks up top. Nothing but silence and that map in her bag. Helena followed the tree line, scanning for disturbances. Soil shifted, branches broken, things out of place. A plastic hair clip caught in the roots of a tree, faded pink. Not new, but not decades old either. She bagged it, marked the spot on her phone. Back at the car, a truck pulled in. Old Ford, blue paint sun-bleached to white. The man who stepped out was mid-50s, wiry, sun-scorched skin. A farmer by the look of him. "You lost?" he called. "Looking," Helena said. "For what? An old property line?" She lied. Trying to confirm where it ran, he spat into the dirt, came closer. His eyes flicked to her tires, her license plate, back to her. "Place ain't been worth nothing since the flood. Just snakes and junk down there now. You come here often? Used to fish. Not anymore. Not since. Well." He scratched the back of his neck. "Guess you heard about the girl?" "What girl?" His gaze sharpened, surprised she didn't know. 1998. High school kid. Went missing from a bonfire 2 miles upriver. Last anyone saw, she was headed this way. Never found her." He hesitated. "You find something. You tell someone. Depends what it is." He left before she could ask his name. Just drove off, dust trailing behind him like a secret he didn't want to share. On the drive back, Helena called the sheriff's office. The dispatcher was polite until she mentioned the case year. 98? The dispatcher repeated, paper rustling. "That's classified as unresolved missing persons. Files thin. You're not law enforcement. Why are you asking?" "Curiosity," Helena said. There was a pause. "Curiosity gets people in trouble out here." Click. By the time Helena reached town, the sun was climbing, heat shimmer on the asphalt. She stopped at Maggie Holt's house. Maggie answered in the same cardigan as yesterday, like she hadn't moved since. "Find anything?" "A hair clip," Helena said. Near the river bend, Maggie's expression flickered. Too fast to read. Relief? Fear? Both. "That doesn't mean anything," Maggie said quickly. "No," Helena said. "Not yet." But the way Maggie's hand gripped the doorframe told Helena it meant something to her. Chapter 3. The Silo. The second X on the map sat beside a disused grain silo, 20 minutes west of the river. The drive cut through fields of dead corn, late harvest, too much rain. The stalks rattled in the wind like dry bones. The road ended in a rutted track, lined with rusting farm equipment. At the far edge, the silo rose grey and hollow, its metal sides pocked with rust holes big enough to see daylight through. A sheet of corrugated tin leaned crooked across the doorway. No lock, just neglect. Inside, dust floated in pale shafts of light. The air smelled of mildew and old grain. Rat droppings lined the floor. A single rope dangled from the rafters, frayed at the end. Helena circled slowly, boots crunching gravel. Scrapes on the concrete floor. Faint arcs, like something heavy dragged and turned. Near the back wall she found it. A set of initials carved deep into the metal. DH, not MH. Back in the car, she compared the letters to the map. The handwriting matched Thomas's, but the carving, rougher, angrier. Whoever D.H. was, they wanted to be remembered. Or they couldn't help themselves. Maggie called as Helena was heading back. "Anything?" Maggie asked, too fast. "A rope. Initials. D.H. ring any bells?" Silence. Then, no. She lied. Helena could hear it in the breath Maggie held, in the way her voice steadied too much. Helena stopped by the sheriff's office. Deputy Grant, mid-30s, chewing sunflower seeds like they owed him money, didn't look thrilled to see her. "You're still digging into Holt?" he said. "Still looking," Helena said. "Guy's dead. Let him stay that way." "Who's D.H.? Grant spat into a cup. "Daniel Holt, brother. Drank too much, fought too much. Left town after a fire in '94. Word was he lit it himself." "He alive?" Grant shrugged. "Last I heard, living in the woods. Off the grid. That family's poison." When Helena told Maggie later, she didn't flinch. Not exactly. But she looked away, toward the mantel lined with photos of Thomas, none of which showed another man beside him. "You never mentioned he had a brother," Helena said. "He didn't," Maggie said flatly. "Not anymore. Not any more alive or not any more family." Maggie's jaw tightened. "Both." Helena studied her in the silence that followed. Most widows cried when you mentioned their husband's brother. Maggie just shut down, like Helena had crossed into territory she didn't want mapped. As Helena left, Maggie called after her, voice low. "If you find Daniel, don't tell me." Chapter 4. The Watcher. The third mark on the map was deeper into nowhere, a clearing where two logging roads met and then disappeared into state forest. No houses for miles, no cell signal. Just the sound of cicadas and Helena's own tires crunching gravel. By the time she reached it, the light was thinning, the sky bruising toward dusk. The clearing looked ordinary. Waist-high weeds, a scatter of beer cans, tire ruts filled with muddy water. But ordinary didn't stay ordinary when you knew what you were looking for. Boot prints. 2 sets. One small, one larger. The smaller ones ended at the tree line. The larger doubled back toward the road. Something shiny caught the light in the weeds. A metal button. Green enamel chipped at the edges. Old military surplus, maybe. Helena crouched to photograph the prints. That's when she heard it. A snap. Not loud, not close. Just far enough away to raise the hair on her arms. She stood slowly, scanning the tree line. Shadows between trunks, impossible to separate from human shapes if you wanted to see them badly enough. "Daniel Holt!" she called. Silence. Then another snap, closer. She walked back to the car, slow, deliberate. No rush. Rushing spooked people, animals, whatever was out there watching. As she reached the driver's door, she glanced in the side mirror. Movement. A figure slipping behind a tree, too tall to be Maggie, too still to be coincidence. By the time Helena got back to town, the adrenaline had worn off, leaving only the ache in her shoulders and a dozen questions in her head. She stopped at Maggie's again, partly to check her reaction, partly to confirm what she already suspected. Maggie was hiding something. The widow opened the door before Helena knocked this time. Her face was pale, cardigan buttoned wrong, one button too high. "You've seen him?" Maggie said. Not a question. "You knew he was out there," Helena said. Maggie's hand tightened on the edge of the door. "If you see him again, don't talk to him." "Why?" "Because Daniel doesn't forgive." Helena waited for more. Maggie shut the door instead. That night, in her motel room, Helena spread the map across the bed. The marks formed a pattern she hadn't seen before, almost a circle, each point equidistant from the Holt farm at the center. Not random, not even close. Someone had been keeping watch. Chapter 5. The Farm. The Holt farm sat at the center of the map, like a secret no one wanted to speak aloud. The house itself was long abandoned, paint peeled to bare wood, porch sagging, windows boarded. A barn leaned against the wind, roof half collapsed. The mailbox still had a name stenciled on it, barely legible. Holt. Helena parked by the fence line and crossed into waist-high grass. Every step stirred grasshoppers and the faint smell of something sweet rotting in the sun. The house door was unlocked. Inside, silence thick enough to hear her own breath. Dust layered every surface, furniture draped in sheets. A family portrait on the wall. Thomas as a boy, Maggie not yet in the picture, another boy at his side. Daniel. Same jawline, darker eyes. The kitchen drew her first. Cabinets hung open, hinges rusted. A coffee can full of nails sat on the counter beside a chipped mug. On the wall, someone had scratched tallies into the paint, uneven, clustered in fives. 43 marks total. What they counted, she didn't know yet. The barn was worse. Light slanted through gaps in the siding, striping the dirt floor. In the far stall, half buried in straw, she found them. Scraps of clothing, stiff with age. A shoe. Women's. Red leather. Missing the heel. A child's barrette. Cracked. And bone. Small, weathered, unmistakable. Helena bagged what she could, without disturbing too much, and took photos of the rest. Her phone buzzed. No signal. Figures. As she stepped back outside, she saw movement at the tree line. Same figure as before. Tall, wiry, standing too still. Watching. "Daniel?" she called. He didn't move. Helena took a step toward him. He melted into the trees. By the time she reached Maggie's house, dusk had fallen hard. The widow answered the door faster than she had any right to, eyes wide, cardigan misbuttoned again. "You went there," Maggie said, not a question. "There are bones," Helena told her. "In the barn." Maggie's face didn't change. No shock, no denial. Just a slow exhale, like she'd been holding her breath for years. "I told him to burn it," she whispered. "Who?" Helena asked. "Thomas." Chapter 6. The Cover-Up. The living room was dark, except for a single lamp. Sympathy cards still sat unopened on the coffee table. Maggie stood in the doorway like she wasn't sure whether to invite Helena in or bolt. "You told him to burn it," Helena said. The barn. Maggie's eyes flicked toward the window, like she expected someone to be listening. "Thomas found out what Daniel was doing?" Maggie said finally, voice flat. "He wanted to tell the police. But if he did, everything would come out. What Daniel did. What Thomas let happen. She stopped herself, biting the inside of her cheek. What? Helena asked. Maggie's hands twisted in front of her. "I didn't know. Not at first. By the time I found out, it was too late. We thought burning the barn would end it. But Thomas couldn't do it. He kept pieces, maps, notes. He said someone needed to know someday." "Why call me?" Helena asked. "Why not bury it for good?" Maggie's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. "Because I need someone else to carry it, someone who doesn't know us." "That's not how truth works," Helena said quietly. "You hire me, you get all of it, even if you don't like where it lands." Maggie sat, shoulders collapsing inward. "Daniel hated Thomas," she said. "Said he was weak, said he'd ruined everything. The night Thomas died, I swear I saw him, outside the house, watching." "You think Daniel killed him?" Maggie shook her head. "No. Heart attack, just like they said. But I think Daniel waited for it, like he knew it was coming." "Where is he now?" Helena asked. Maggie's voice dropped. The woods. Always the woods. He doesn't leave. But he sees everything. Helena pulled the map from her bag and spread it on the coffee table. These marks, river, silo, clearing, barn, they form a circle around this house. Maggie stared at it, jaw tight. I know. You ever ask yourself why? I don't have to. Tell me. Maggie finally looked at her, eyes raw, because that's where he buried them. Chapter 7. The woods. The woods behind the Holt farm didn't keep paths. They swallowed them. By the 3rd mile, Helena couldn't tell deer trail from old logging road. The trees pressed close, air heavy with pine and damp earth. The map said the final X was here, deep center of the circle, where every other mark converged. She found signs of him first, a tarp strung between 2 oaks, weathered blue, empty cans hanging from string, wind chimes or alarms, a line of bones wired together and nailed to a tree trunk, animal but posed like art. Daniel Holt wasn't hiding, he was warning. Helena heard him before she saw him, a low whistle, almost tuneless, off-key, wandering. She froze, listening. The whistle stopped. "Who are you?" a voice called. Low, rough, older than she expected. "I'm looking for Daniel Holt," Helena said. Silence. "Who wants him?" "Helena Monroe, investigator." Another pause, then laughter. Dry, joyless. "Investigator. Thought they sent you all home when the bodies quit screaming." He stepped out from behind a tree, tall, gaunt, hair gone to grey, but eyes sharp and dark, like Thomas, but meaner. Clothes threadbare, layered, boots held together with wire. "You been walking my circle," he said. "You left a map." He grinned, teeth uneven. "That wasn't for you." Helena kept her hands visible, voice even. "There are bones in your family barn. Women. A child." He tilted his head, studying her. "Thomas tell you that?" "He's dead." "I know." A smile ghosted across his face. Heart gave out. Always said it would. "You killed them," Helena said. "No," Daniel said, stepping closer. "I buried them." The wind shifted. Helena smelled smoke, faint but present, not far off. "Who set the fires?" she asked. He looked past her, into the trees. "Ask your widow." A branch snapped behind her. Helena turned. Nothing there. When she looked back, Daniel was gone. Just trees and silence. She followed the smell of smoke deeper into the woods, heart pounding. 10 minutes later, she found it. A half-burned shack, walls blackened, roof caved in. In the ashes, half melted. Metal buttons, enamel chipped green. Same as the one she found at the clearing, and beside it, half buried in the dirt, the edge of another map. This one marked more X's. Chapter 8. The second map. Maggie opened the door before Helena knocked. Again. This time, Maggie didn't speak. Just stared at the dirt on Helena's boots, the scratches on her arms. Helena set the burned scrap of paper on the table. The edges were blackened, the lines faint but visible. More X's, radiating out from the Holt farm like a ripple. "Your husband had more maps," Helena said. "Why didn't you tell me?" Maggie sat slowly, hands clasped in her lap. "Because I didn't know where they all led." "You knew enough." Silence stretched. Outside, wind rattled the shutters. "He was ashamed," Maggie whispered. "He thought burying them would keep it quiet. Thought I wouldn't see." "See what?" "What he'd done, what he let Daniel do." Helena leaned forward. "Tell me everything." Maggie's eyes were fixed on the map, voice flat and distant. "Daniel brought them here. Girls, hitchhikers, runaways. Said no one would miss them. Thomas hated it, but he didn't stop him. Said it wasn't his place. Said blood was blood. You were here." Helena said quietly. Maggie's jaw tightened. I was pregnant. Thomas told me it was handled. He burned their clothes, buried the rest. He swore it was over. And you believed him? I had to. Her eyes finally met Helena's. If I didn't, I'd have to leave him, and I couldn't. Helena let the silence hang. Sometimes silence made people say what they were really afraid of. Maggie looked away first. Daniel came back after the heart attack, stood at the window the night after the funeral, just watching. He's waiting for me. Why you? Because I knew, Maggie whispered. I let him walk away too. Helena folded the burned map. This doesn't end until someone digs them all up. Then you'll dig, Maggie said, voice shaking. Not me. As Helena left, movement flickered in the reflection of the window, a shadow pulling back into the tree line. Watching. Chapter 9. The Clearing. The last X on the burned map led Helena deeper into the woods than before, past the circle, past the landmarks Thomas marked years ago. The trees grew denser, the air heavier. Even the birds were silent here. The clearing opened like a wound, overturned soil, fresh shovels leaning against a stump, a half-dug hole, and Daniel Holt standing inside it. He didn't startle when Helena approached. He just kept digging, each shovelful slow and steady, like he'd been expecting her. You followed the map, he said without looking up. Why draw it if you didn't want anyone to? He planted the shovel, rested both hands on the handle. Wasn't for you. Was for him. Thomas? Daniel finally met her eyes. His were sharp, fever-bright. He wanted to confess, couldn't say it out loud, so he left breadcrumbs. Thought someone might care enough to follow. Helena glanced at the hole, pale fragments of bone visible in the dirt. Not the first grave here, not the last. You killed them, she said. Daniel smiled thinly. I buried them. Thomas picked them. The words landed like a punch. That's not what Maggie said. Daniel laughed, low, bitter. Maggie, sweet Maggie. You think she didn't know? Think she didn't help? She washed the blood out of his shirts. Why now? Helena asked. Why come back? His smile faded. Because Thomas died owing me. He got clean. He found God. He got a wife who still loved him. And I got this. He gestured to himself. The filth. The ruin. You tell me if that's fair. A twig snapped behind Helena. She turned. Maggie stood at the edge of the clearing, hands shaking. No coat, no shoes. Daniel, she said softly. His face lit, not with warmth, but recognition. You came. Helena stepped between them. Stay back, Maggie. No, Maggie said. Let him talk. Daniel's voice cracked, half laughter, half grief. I dug the graves. He made the choices. You looked away. We all had our part. Maggie's face twisted. Guilt and fury tangled together. I begged him to stop. I begged you both. You stayed, Daniel spat. You made me afraid, she snapped. For a moment, no one moved. The air felt electric, charged with everything unsaid. Then Daniel dropped the shovel, slowly. Take it, he said to Helena. You want the truth? Dig it up yourself. When she looked back up, he was gone, melted into the trees like smoke. Chapter 10. The Wait. By the time the deputies reached the clearing, Daniel was gone. His tracks vanished into the underbrush, same as before. They searched until dawn, dogs, flashlights, voices echoing through the trees. But the woods swallowed him whole. The bones stayed behind. In the days that followed, the Holt farm became a crime scene. Excavators unearthed grave after grave, each X on the maps marking another forgotten life. Some of the remains were decades old. Others, barely bones. The papers called it a family secret. The town called it a curse. Maggie didn't run. She sat through every interview, every question, every camera shoved in her face. She never denied knowing. She never admitted it either. "I didn't kill them," she said once, voice flat, to Helena alone. "I just didn't save them." When the sheriff asked if Helena believed her, she said nothing. Belief wasn't her job. The map had told the truth, or enough of it to damn them all. Thomas Holt was buried twice, once by his wife, and again by the revelations that followed. The town stripped his name off the church wall. Maggie sold the house, left without saying where. Daniel? Still out there. Woods that thick didn't give people back unless they wanted to be found. Weeks later, Helena drove past the farm one last time. Winter coming on, fields bare, the barn collapsed under snow. In the wind, she swore she heard the faint rattle of cans, a warning strung between trees. The map sat folded in her glove compartment. 5 marks, 10 graves, and silence where answers should be. End of chapter and end of book. Like and subscribe to support our channel and to listen to more intriguing investigative stories.